Yeah, you can hear my TV in the background, but just really quick. Yeah, I like my mob stories. But just really quick, a little bit more about the necklace and how they say that the necklace, had to be surgically removed because it was embedded into her wound. Even Susan Sarandon said this. But these are Darlie's own words right here, and I just want to bring this up. Uh, I remember getting to the hospital and then them telling me they were taking me to surgery. They took off my necklace and put me to sleep. I woke up, and minutes later, the detectives were there asking me all kinds of questions. They took off my necklace. They didn't pull it out during surgery. They took it off. They didn't surgically remove it. They took it off. Now this here, I'm going to go through the whole thing quickly. I'm going to do it slowly so you can read. This is the first initial statements that Darlie wrote.
He soon became Chicago's biggest bootlegger, aided by another Neapolitan, a violent young criminal wanted for murder in New York. Alphonse Capone, alias Al Capone, Al Brown, Scarface. His famous scar came not from gangland vengeance, but a barroom.
The boys were out playing outside with the kids outside. Like people said earlier, that they were outside all the time. A doting mom. I was finishing up dinner.
He built up a huge bootlegging empire. He expanded Torrio's gambling rackets, and he had the city's top politicians in his pocket. Capone became a celebrity in Chicago and across America. He was a degenerate gambler and admitted losing more than $7 million on the horses. But whether at the races or the baseball game, as Chicago's mob boss, he was hated wherever he went.
Now, Kathy Ramsey claims that Darlie, they left out the fact that they had words, that he asked for a separation in the first initial statements. They left that fact out, but Kathy Ramsey tell you, oh no, Darlie put it right in her statement that they had words. No, she didn't.
Mr. Capone sent for them. And he laid down the law that they were all true, that they would have to go to work. One person defied him and said to him, "You have your racket, I have mine." Well, said, "That the way you feel about it?" He said, "Yes."
Now,
nobody knows what happened to this.
I asked Darin to drive Dana, my sister, home because I wasn't feeling too well. Nowhere else do you hear that Darlie wasn't feeling well that night, except for right here. Because Dana said that she wanted to go home and be with her boyfriend, Kevin. So there's two different stories. I think I'd agree with Beja. She said they had been fighting all week and that when she came over there, they were fighting. I wasn't feeling well.
See, if you take this area, I take this.
While Darin was gone, the boys brought down their blankets and pillows and asked if they could watch TV. How long was Darin gone?
Not persons who were actually involved in legal pursuits. They're competitive business arrangements were the ones caused the murders.
By New Year 1929, Al Capone had.
I have been having some depression.
From his old stronghold.
I told Darin I was depressed because I hadn't been able to take the boys anywhere because we only have one car.
The only remaining resistance came.
He told me he loved me and asked me if I wanted to sleep downstairs with me because I wanted to stay up a bit. and watch TV. She wasn't feeling well, but she wanted to stay up a little bit. I mean, I'm not feeling well. I want to sleep it off. I told him no because I did not think he would be able to sleep on the couch. So she didn't want Darin down there. Darin asked could he be down there with her. And she told him no.
Sorry.
I had been sleeping on the couch for the past week or so because the baby slept in our room in the crib. And when he moved, it woke me up. Didn't wake anybody else up. Woke Darlie up. So you know, nothing about the crib being on the floor, the wood floor, which the crib was all the way across the room. It was a big bedroom they had. Now, this is Darlie and Darin's bedroom now. The house is up on the market now. Actually, it's not. It's been sold. Now, to my knowledge, Drake's crib was right here. And when I went through the house in '06, I believe it was, this was carpet. But downstairs, the windows are kind of, the sliding glass doors are kind of like these right here. They had carpet rolled up like they were going to put new carpet downstairs as well. So this may be the way that it looked. But this is how big Darlie and Darin's room was. Pretty good sized room. And it was carpeted. But nothing about rocking in the crib. She just said when he moved. Darin and I laid together for a little while, and then he decided to go. Then I decided to go to sleep. Then decided to go to sleep because he had to work the next day. This was around 12:30 or 1 o'clock. He kissed me and said he loved me. And I told him I loved him and would see him in the morning. After a while, I started to get sleepier. Next thing, I woke up and felt a pressure on me. I felt Damon press on my right shoulder and heard him cry. This is a whole lot different than he said, "Mommy, Mommy." This really made me come awake, and I realized there was a man standing down at my feet, walking away from me. I walked after him. Walked. And heard glass breaking. Now, we've already established that wine rack had a safety mechanism where you just can't just bump into it and they fall out. You have to take them out.
Paying $10 for one apple to help out a war veteran. The Depression gave him the chance to act like Robin Hood.
Father Notorious citizen Al Capone, king of the gangsters, appeared in a new role as a public benefactor when he sets up soup kitchens to feed unemployed. It cost Al $2,500 per week to feed these men.
Real deal in vain. Thanks to Mr. Capone's hospitality. I wasn't for Al Capone broken up in this here warehouse on 935 South State Street. Where was he? I appreciate the soup on a Sunday and a cold day. Soup was very poor man here. I enjoyed myself. I sure, all these poor guys here just naturally hungry and starving out. Look what Capone's doing for these poor guys. He's doing all this himself. He never robbed nobody on the streets. He never took advantage of anybody by selling them liquor that wasn't the real McCoy, you know. He handled it best.
Somebody spilled the beans. Now,
Darin was screaming, "Who did this? Who did this?" No, that was Darlie that was screaming, "Who did this?"
talk about
I started asking it, my babies. Nowhere in this statement does she say anything about bringing towels to Darin. Nowhere. I remember them holding a towel to my neck. They took off my necklace, so shut up with it was embedded in the wound. It had to be surgically removed. Now, this is from my page, Stop the Lies, Darlie Routier is Guilty. There's a lot of good stuff on that page. This is where we've had the chance, to speak to a couple of the nurses, a couple of the detectives that were on the case. Me and Pam had the privilege to speak to them personally, and they asked, that we don't share. So we haven't shared it. But we've talked to Frosh, David Neighbors, we talked to him several times, Jody Fitz, a couple, a lot of different people come to that page. This is the page that the people that were involved with the case, they come to watch. This is the page. They do look at the videos. Neighbors watches my videos. But this is what Susan Sarandon said. Back in 2015, I posted her exact remark. Darlie was rushed to Baylor University Medical Center in Dallas and immediately taken into surgery. The necklace Darlie had been wearing at the time of the attack was so deeply embedded in her throat that it had to be surgically removed. But it also saved her life, stopping the knife in less than 2 millimeters from her carotid artery. Really? Stop the lies. Darlie Routier is guilty. There's the actual necklace. See how thin that is? We'll probably play an ad. Now, this is false media. For some reason, it won't show it, but I get it from CNN videos. Corrupt News Network, as our new president, second time around, will tell you, they're fake news. And here's a little bit of proof of that. Let's see if it says anything. It doesn't say anything. The video is not available. But this is what the media puts out. CNN put it out on Death Row Stories. So I can't get that to play. Now that is Darlie's statement. Pause it, to take a look, and then we'll take a look at this. Okay, now, well, where is the affidavit of Darin Routier now? Let's see.
Capone tried to fix the jury, but he was convicted and sentenced to 11 years in jail. He could not believe it. Chicago could not believe it either. Capone's...
Well, it doesn't come up on a Google search. Right now, I can't find the 2002 affidavit of Darin Routier, but I will, and it's much different than what he says here. But I do want to point out a couple of different things. They were about to go to Cancun with Terry and Karen Neal from across the street.
In 1958, Accardo, another Capone hitman, faced persistent questioning about his past from Robert Kennedy.
Now, Mr. Accardo, in 1931, you and 4 other of the home...
Now, he doesn't say anything about Darlie helping her. And in the 911 call, they ask her, is anybody else in the house? And she says, just my husband. He's helping me.
Took the Fifth Amendment to fend off claims from Kennedy that he had been a killer for Capone and was now Chicago's most powerful gangster.
Here's a man who's been a force in organized crime for part.
There's my wallet left on the floor. All I could do was go holler for help. He needed help because Darlie wasn't helping him. I needed someone to help.
In 1957, Accardo handed over the job.
I went downstairs and ran out of the house, across the street.
He was who had worked with Accardo for years. Giancana became boss at just the wrong time. For years, the Chicago outfit had been protected by local police and politicians. But now the FBI began to investigate the city's top hoodlums. FBI agents put Giancana under the closest surveillance. Bill Roma followed him everywhere.
No matter where he went, we were going to stay with him, right by his side. If he went to the...
He was standing in the doorway with the paramedics. And she needed to go to the hospital.
No matter what he did, if he was eating, whether he was golfing, whatever it was that he did, I knew from the extensive background investigation that I had conducted on Giancana that he was an animal. The guy was a beast, really, and he raped and killed and murdered and tortured. And
nowhere in this statement does he talk about they had words. She asked for a separation. That didn't come till 2002. Let me see if I can find it. I tell you, I used to be able to find the affidavit of Darin Routier by just typing it in simply, just like I would do this one.
Capable of crime. And he recognized that in Chicago, organized crime was at the height of its power and more dangerous perhaps than any place else, and that the leader,
You can find Robbie Jean Key, but you can't find Darin's anymore. Can't find it. Pam's got it. I'll find it. Let me find it. Let's look here. Let's see if we can look here.
Civil enforcement, national enforcement in the city of Chicago, we had absolute 100% backing. Whatever was needed within the realm of legality was always available at a moment's notice.
But the CIA, America's Central Intelligence Agency, was employing the Chicago mob at the same time as the Kennedys were fighting them. A few months before the presidential election, the CIA approached Sam Giancana through his lieutenant, Johnny Roselli. Roselli and Giancana were contracted by the CIA to murder Fidel Castro. The agency wanted
I'm not going to do that.
revolutionary leader dead because he was anti-American.
We can't find that anymore. Let me see if I can find it somewhere else.
There are no black hats and there are no white hats. They all conduct themselves the exact same. And very good evidence of that is that the CIA would hire.
I've got it, but I can't get the damn thing open.
Sam Giancana, John Zealot.
I found it under one of my own videos. Oh, I'm not getting the views that I'd like, but I get quality views. See, Rich says that it's important that, it's important to him that both sides, go look it up, both sides, but he never promotes it. But anyways, I'm gonna let this play for just a second because his story is totally different. Well, she told some of the other people that she wasn't aware of this whole thing here. And I had a conversation with her about why did Darin and Darlie leave out in their first written statements to the police? Why did they leave it out that she asked him for a separation that night? First, you can go look. The conversation is posted. First, she told me she wasn't aware of that, and then she told me Well, maybe she just didn't remember correctly. And I said she remembered that she put carrots in the chicken soup. Or maybe she just wasn't remembering right. And blah, blah, blah. And she's told other people that Darin didn't recall the right way either, about this. But she says she doesn't know anything about this. 2000. This is her brother-in-law. It'd be her brother-in-law. All right? And just to go real quick, my name is Darin Routier. I am over the age of 21, and I reside in McKinney, Texas. I am capable and fully competent to make this affidavit. The statements herein are true and correct to the best of my personal knowledge. I am the husband of petitioner Darlie Lynn Routier, of the petitioner. In 1994, I spoke to a person about my Jaguar automobile. In that conversation, I said that it wouldn't bother me if the Jaguar was stolen. That person then stole the Jaguar. Now this is relevant. Why? Because it was the white Jaguar. He had two of them. Not at the same time. But the white Jaguar, and Beja spoke to me in depth about the car and even told me where it was. Said it was in Hamilton, Ohio somehow. But this was a real insurance scam. And they did collect money for it because Beja said so. Can't find any record of it, but blah, blah, blah. Darlie herself knew all about this one. In March or April of now notice that he doesn't say Barry Five's name. Why is it that person? That person. Why is it that person? That person then stole the Jaguar. What happened after that? Money. In March or April of 1996, I asked my father-in-law, Robbie Gene Key, if he knew anyone who would agree to burglarize my home as part of an insurance scam. I said that I would arrange for my family to be absent from the house, blah, 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 and that someone I would hire would come in the house, blah, 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 that would come in the house with a U-Haul truck. Right? First he goes to his father-in-law, right? And Darlie heard them talking about it and stormed out. Darlie knew they were talking about this. Beja told me Darlie was full aware of these scams, that they actually tried to get her to help them. Between March and 1996, I told multiple people of my planned insurance scam. I had a verbal disagreement with my wife, Darlie Lynn Routier. During that discussion, my wife asked me for a separation. But see, they're telling the police that their marriage is wonderful. Right? Dream of me. Talking about meeting with Mulder. He continued to meet with Mulder. I continued to meet with Mr. Mulder in August 1996. During one of the meetings I had with Mr. Mulder in August 1996, he told me that the court-appointed attorneys in my wife's case, Wayne Huff and Douglas Parks, had confided in him that they were going to try and portray me as the person that was guilty of the murder of my sons, Devin and David, because they thought I had something to do with the deaths of my sons. Darlie's own attorneys thought that he had something to do with it, right? I told Mr. Mulder that if we hired him, I did not want him to go after me. Mr. Mulder agreed that if hired to represent my wife, he would not argue as part of the defense that I was in any way responsible for the death of my children. Between July 96 and September 96, I continued to meet regularly with Mr. Mulder. On September 30, 1996, Mr. Mulder represented me at a show cause hearing before Judge Toller, state of Texas, alleged that I violated a gag order in a criminal case against my wife. That's when they went on the radio show. Okay, here's the whole thing that's funny about this. First, Danelle said she didn't know about this. You know she knows about it. You have to know about it. Why wouldn't you know about it? And then, here's the thing. For anyone now, when I was a supporter, I always thought that Darin set it up, and it was that robbery went bad. That's what I thought, and that's what this thing is here for. This thing is bullshit. No, he didn't speak to anybody about it. Any multiple people about breaking into his house. Nobody. All right? Nobody. But as a supporter, I don't know why in the hell none of them are asking Darin to name these multiple people. Multiple people. I told multiple people. And you talk about the cops not following any fucking leads? I'll tell you why. Because that family protects people that hurt children. That family's protected Dennis Stahl because he hurt an 8-year-old little girl up into her teen years. The first time was in 8 years old. It began when she was 8 years old. And they all try to hush that, just like they're trying to hush Darlie doing what she did here. You know, in the late evening, on June 5th, I had a verbal disagreement with my wife, Darlie Lynn Routier. During that discussion, my wife asked me for a marital separation. Neither one of them in their first statements said anything about that. Why? Why? Because, Beja said they had been fighting all week long. So, when you omit facts, right, that they had a verbal disagreement, that's just like lying, both of them. You can see Darin on the last defense saying, I did it for Darlie. In my opinion, he was trying to cover for Darlie. Not that he had anything to do with the crime. It's a lot different than what we just saw, isn't it? Both of them. And you can save that the necklace was embedded in her wound. The testimony says they took it off of her as well. Then they put her to sleep. Stop the lies.
To assassinate Fidel Castro. If there's such a difference